Happy Friday, everyone. It is officially Masters weekend. It is April the 12th. Connor Barnett, head of content here, alongside my guy Paul Hickey of NoOffSeason.com. Welcome back to another Overflow Show, the premium pod dedicated to helping premium members level up their sports card investment portfolio. We want to thank each and every one of you for your fantastic support, and we are looking forward to providing as much guidance and valuable information today as we possibly can. We've been mentioning this as of late, but be sure to check out your updated member dashboard feature via the top right button after signing in as a premium member at NoOffSeason.com. And as always, look to utilize Sports Card School as a tool to help level up your sports card flipping game, no matter what your current situation is in the hobby. And be sure to utilize our updated sports card rankings at NoOffSeason.com, where you can find singular player profiles with direct links to strong buying opportunities. And guys, if you are a premium member listening to the pod, wondering how you can get your question answered in next week's Overflow Show, very simple. Just head over to nooffseason.com/ask. We will let you know once we've received your question, and we'll answer it as timely a manner as possible. That being said, we're about ready to hop into things. Paul, how are we doing today? I'm pumped to be back on another Overflow Show. We got some good questions, and I always learn, so I'm excited.
Doing great, Connor. Just, we're better than Netflix. The Overflow Show is a big part of the premium membership here at NoOffSeason.com. So welcome in NoOffSeason.com family members, veterans, and rookies. If you're a rookie to NoOffSeason.com, the flow is sort of like, check out Sports Card School first, read our premium articles, read our player profiles, get a hang of some snipe prices that we have on those player profiles and what the sell markers are. And then any questions you have about anything at all, go to nooffseason.com/ask, like Connor said, and we're going to answer it that very week on this show, the premium pod, the Overflow Show. So any questions at all, submit them at nooffseason.com/ask. We'll always answer them, and we'll help you make money flipping sports cards. So take a break from the Masters, watch the premium pod here on nooffseason.com. Better than Netflix. Let's get into it. Who are we talking to today? Whose questions are we answering?
Paul, you made me think of something as you were talking about the newer members real quick that I wanted to touch on. Also, if you're someone that's new to the hobby or for whatever reason you don't want your information shared, you're more than welcome to submit questions and ask to be remaining anonymous throughout the show. We don't mind not mentioning names. We just want to provide as much value as we possibly can for as many members. And your questions are going to help other members too. So don't be shy. And if you don't want your name mentioned on the show, that's fine. Just tell us you want to remain anonymous, and we'll be sure to get your question answered without revealing who exactly you are. But like Paul said, we got some good names to roll through today. So we're going to start things off with Chris and go over to Koa C, Brian F, Chuck T, Bo R, Jordan L, Rob B, Kevin O, Ian T, and then we're going to round things off with Jeff M. Paul, let's kick it off here with Chris. He says, hello, I just discovered you guys, and I am enjoying the podcast and working my way through Sports Card School. Let's go, Chris. I just got back into cards after a 20-year hiatus about 6 months ago and made some pretty classic beginner mistakes, essentially from being directionless. I'm looking for guidance to get myself back on track. Chris provides a brief background for us here that I'm going to run through real quick. First packs Chris bought were some Tops times J-Rod show out and loved the set. I like the design, and for someone new to Parallels, the 75 card base set was very appealing. So they spent thousands of dollars buying boxes to rip and did some breaks and basically just wasted money. Around Christmas, I started to get more into learning about cards and the market and discovered grading and eBay singles and baseball season hypes. As I bought some singles all from this set, that Tops times J-Rod show out, and went through what I had and submitted a bunch of cards to get graded to be back before the season started. Good news was that 13 of 25 came back as 10s, and I have decent ones, and I posted them right around opening day. It says I posted them as buy it nows with higher prices than they may deserve, and I'm willing to be patient to get them moved. It says apart from me, not very many people seem to love this set. The cards don't sell great and tend to get fractions of what an equivalent card from another set would get. Also, the ones I have graded do not really have comps, as not a lot of graded cards exist. I recently found Market Movers and love it, but the set isn't loaded and the sales data doesn't have a ton because it's not super popular in terms of sales. It says I don't have much of a card budget left and pretty much need to sell everything that I'm holding before I'm comfortable buying again. I am now committed to using cards to make money for myself and my family and fund my PC, which would be Ken Griffey Jr. and Pedro Martinez, but need some help undoing what I've done and best positioning myself moving forward. Then provides to show us their plan moving forward. Says, I would love for you to take a look and see what you think. Says the same brain that got me into the situation made the plan. So excited to see the feedback that you guys have. The plan is as follows, Paul. Keep the cards listed on eBay with high buy it nows or best offers and see what happens. Point two is there's a local card show on the 26th of April. If the cards are not selling on eBay, bring them with him to the card show and try and get as much sold as possible without worrying about eBay fees or shipping. Step three, go through what I still have and see if there's anything worth grading and send out the best options to get them back around the All-Star break. Once they come back, use the same strategy with them on eBay until the next decent sized card show I can go to. And then point number five is through all the packs I ripped, I have a ton of cards worth $2 to $10. Based on some comps, the lower level cards tend to be more available for sale. Point five ends with grind on eBay selling singles and Facebook Marketplace selling lots to try and squeeze everything I can out of these $2 to $10 cards. Excited for the feedback and thanks in advance. Chris, we're pumped to have you as part of the family. I think you got some good questions here. Real quick, just a couple thoughts before I kick things over to Paul. I think, unfortunately, these are going to be the wrong cards and probably mostly the wrong players. We've talked about using the formula the last couple episodes of the Sports Card Strategy Show, which has been awesome because, Paul, it's giving us new opportunities to try and find baseball options for guys that have already been called up. But ultimately, buying prospects rather than players that have already been called up already has still been our most successful strategy, and it does provide a clear sell marker there. In terms of sell strategies with these cards, Paul, I'm thinking probably need to swap these to lower end auctions rather than high price buy it nows in terms of pricing above comps to try and salvage what you can here, kind of similar to what your thought process was with the $2 to $10 prints. Love that you want to get things moved at card shows, so try to avoid the fees. But I think you just need to try to get these moved for what you can. It's the beginning of baseball season. At that point, you'd have cash flow back in pocket at some level to start investing in the right cards at the right players at the right time that have clear sell markers and some data-driven upside. That's just my 2 cents there, Paul. Excited to see what you have for Chris.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you nailed it, Connor. We talk about buying the right card for the right player at the right time, and it took me a couple of years to get there. So, Chris, I can relate to what you've done here. I mean, when I jumped back in the hobby all in late 2020, early 2021, after a 30-year hiatus, similar to you, Chris, I saw all these different releases and I thought, oh, well, that should be easy to buy and flip and make money because everybody wants sports cards. Wrong. It's that there are so many different kinds of sports cards. The market is flooded with cards and there's only a select few that are actually desirable, that actually where the demand supersedes the supply. So this is just a simple case of there's such a supply of not only the Topps J-Rod set that you're talking about, but just J-Rod cards in general. So when we talk about the right card, at Sports Card School, we have guidelines, strategies, and plays. I don't know if you've made it that far yet into Sports Card School, but it's in the advanced flipping course. I believe the first lesson, one of the first few videos of the advanced flipping course. And we go through what the right cards are. What are the examples of the right cards in the guidelines, strategies, and plays, how to pick the right cards. And you're basically avoiding most of the cards on the market and narrowing it down to a select few. Now, this is like, Connor, starting as a beginning golfer and buying a starter set of clubs that you for like $100 that you then realize, didn't come with a 6-iron, didn't come with some other like woods that you needed, didn't come with a sand wedge, and basically was a crappy set of clubs, and you need to basically sell that $100 set of clubs for $10 to play it against sports. You need to use that $10 to go buy the $800-900 set of irons plus the $300 and $400 driver that's going to make you a good golfer and $200 or $300 putter, right? So like So this is what this is. This is a case where, Chris, you've bought a starter set of sports cards that isn't worth anything, and you've graded them, which we need to just chalk all of this up to experience. You're learning by experience. These cards are not going to move unless you do what Connor said, which is put them in like a 99-cent opening bid auction. Now within that, you can be strategic in your auction on eBay. You can list it during, a stretch of games when J-Rod is relevant or is playing a lot. You can do things like we talk about, listing at around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time so that the auctions end around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time. You could do it in an upcoming game, maybe where the Mariners are on national TV, right? So you can do things that are strategic that you would do if you had the right J-Rod card. However, I think the longer that you wait for the buy it now or best offer, I think you'll find that it's just not going to come. It's just not going to come unless you price it like under comps. Unless you're willing to price it under comps, you're probably not going to get much action from these. And I think what you need to do is list them in 7 or 10-day eBay auctions and just take whatever you can get for them. Now, there's some silver lining here. I mentioned you're learning by experience. The other silver lining is that every time that you complete a sale on eBay, you can get positive reviews if you provide a good experience for your buyer. You ship the card on time, you package it up correctly, maybe leave a little note, maybe throw some extra cards in there as a gift, as long as they're not using like a ship my cards address or a PWCC vault address. If they're using like what appears to be a home address, then you can get a little bonus points from your buyer. So I think if you can execute sales, get some reps in, don't worry about profiting from these. You're not going to profit from these. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So you probably need to, what I would recommend actually, Chris, is that you don't like grind it out with these cards. I think what you should do is move on from them, list them, move them, take the L, and then take the knowledge from the experience. When something happens that burns you in life, you never forget that. So you never want to go buy these wrong cards again. If you're underwater a few $100s on this whole thing, big whoop, right? Just never forget the feeling of how bad it sucked to lose a few $100s, and then just make the right decisions moving forward based on what we're providing you on a daily basis here at nooffseason.com. So we love that you're here. We want to keep helping you. I think, again, the strategy is to move on. Don't try to grind it out. They're not going to sell at card shows. Nobody's going to want these cards. They're going to be giveaways, which is fine too. But if any, out of all the PSA 10s of these, I would just list them. They're the most desirable ones you have. Started in a 99-cent opening bid. Maybe they sell for above the grading fee. I don't know what the comps are on these, but I think what you need to do is, to your point, they're not in market movers. That's because nobody wants them. There's no sales data. So I think what you need to do is go ahead and just start buying the right card. So the Bowman Chrome First Prospect Auto Base Raw is typically like the starter point for baseball cards. There's some other right cards. You could get the Bowman Chrome First Sapphire Edition non-auto for some of these guys. It's a little bit cheaper. The top guys, their base refractor first can sell well, but there's really only like a handful of cards per player that are the right cards. So hopefully Sports Card School is helping you find those. But I mean, definitely come back to the premium pod here at nooffseason.com/ask. Submit those questions, Chris, and we're going to keep helping you out, man.
Great work, Paul. Yeah, Chris, I think obviously there was a lot of wrong talk in there, but there's also some silver linings, right? So 1, you're in the right place. You're definitely in the right place. 2, you're going to have unlimited questions. So you can keep asking questions as you go along your journey here. And once you do have a little bit of cash flow back, we've got tons of budget-friendly options if you're not looking to reinvest more capital into the flipping game. Paul is giving us raw to grade options on a weekly basis, and where it's typically affordable prints that you can start stacking up for a PSA submission. We've got premium articles about raw budget-friendly options. So there's places to make money. Definitely keep us posted, and be sure to keep using nooffseason.com/ask so we can keep moving you in the right direction. But we do appreciate the support and love that you're part of the family now. Just keep us posted there. Up next, we're going over to Koa C, who's got a question as well as an update for us. We'll start with the question. It says, I've got a one-on-one Spectra Chris Olave gold vinyl rookie patch auto in PSA 10. I've been trying to sell it for about 8 months. I'm in no rush, so I'm not accepting anything less than $1,800. Says George Pickens, same card, went for $2K. Was recently offered a 2023 Spectra Will Levis gold vinyl 1-of-1 dual patch ungraded. Laundry tag, he says he has it listed for $5K, which he knows he will not get, but I might go for it if it's an even swap. What do you guys think? He says Olave, proven number one receiver, but in a bad situation / with a bad QB. It's a possible low ceiling until that changes. Whereas Will Levis is a quarterback, relatively unproven, but has high upside. Includes a couple photos of the cards, which we do appreciate, Koa. My thoughts here are being that they're Spectra cards. Resale values, demand, liquidity, etc. will probably be less than more prominent sets. So you're kind of already fighting a bit of an uphill battle there. I'm thinking, Paul, adding a position player to the mix, if you're comparing position players, skill position guys to quarterbacks, like that would be another something that you're up against the wall with. I'd rather have a quarterback in that scenario, I'm thinking, Paul. So I think I'd go with the Will Levis here. It's a quarterback. It's a rookie card. High upside. Will Levis has upgraded receiving core with Calvin Ridley. Obviously, it is a rare card, but just being Spectra, I think I'm looking for as many good qualities that I can find from one of these cards as possible so that I have as best a chance of moving it for a profit as I can. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think ultimately I'd rather have Will Levis, and I think that it's a bit of a wash here. I think the only thing that is an argument, a counter argument to what we're saying is that this Olave is a PSA 10. So it's a gold 1-of-1 PSA 10, which is like kind of impossible to get. Kind of surprised Koa hasn't been able to move it. I know, I know it's probably at a price point where, it's a little higher than what somebody would be comfortable paying for it, and that's probably why he hasn't been able to move it. I agree with you too, Connor, that it's, since it's Spectra, it's not one of the more desirable releases, although I believe Spectra is becoming more and more popular and accepted among football card collectors, but it's definitely not one of the top releases. So I'm with you though. I mean, ultimately it's like, it's a 1-of-1 versus a 1-of-1. And even though Olave is a solid wide receiver and it is a PSA 10, I think quarterbacks just dominate so much. I think moving this over into a starting quarterback's 1-of-1 going into his second year with, like you said, Connor, Calvin Ridley and, Tony Pollard's now in the offense, and they've got a quarterback friendly head coach now instead of Mike Vrabel, who is a defensive guy. I think that there's going to be a lot of hype around the Titans in the preseason with Will Levis, who has a cannon. And so I would take Levis just because of the sheer hype around quarterbacks. Starting quarterbacks will supersede the 1-of-1 PSA 10 of a wide receiver who's in kind of a questionable situation. Also, I think another thing to consider here that we don't really talk enough about, I've noticed this recently as we've entered cards into the formula. The cards that we're entering into the formula that are newer, that are the CJ Strouds and the Anthony Richardsons of the world versus the Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons, etc. of the world, even Joe Burrows. And what I mean by that is 2023 versus 2018 versus 2020. Like the further back you go, there's just less and less hype. It's just less and less hype. Like, I think Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, as much as I love those guys, they've seen their hype already. And so I think now they're in a situation where they have to perform at a certain level in order to probably move their pricing more than just the tick that gets you that 20 to 30%. So Olave being 2022 is probably, it's falling into that category faster than Levis, who's 2023. Levis, there's still hype around. So I think what I would do if I were Koa, I'm giving you permission, Koa. I would say trade for the Levis. See if you can maybe even get a little bit of cash in the trade. Just be like, hey, this is a PSA 10 Olave. I'll do Levis and a little bit of cash for the Olave. And then if he counters with just, no, I'm just going to do the card straight up, I still think it's a good deal for you because you can move that Levis in the preseason versus like, are you going to be able to move the Olave? You'll be able to move the Olave because it's a 1-of-1 rookie auto patch PSA 10. So it's definitely, even though it's Spectra, you'll be able to move it. But I think all it's going to take for Levis is like literally, Connor, like we all know this, July, there's no pads and there's no defense. It's just like helmets and quarterbacks are just throwing bombs to wide receivers and it's all on social media. So it's just going to be like Levis to Ridley bombs on Instagram and TikTok and stuff. And, you know, ESPN app and all that. And so all it takes for Koa to move the Levis is going to be that, but it's going to take Olave actually and the Saints actually competing at a high level, I think, to move the Olave for what he wants to move it for.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect breakdown there. I love that you mentioned kind of the it's almost like a prospect fatigue thing that we don't consider that much when we talk NFL quarterbacks, but you can see it even if you compare the Burrows and the Hurts to the guys 2016, 2017, you compare liquidity outside of maybe guys like Josh Allen, who still moves crazy, but for a large majority of those guys, you can see the liquidity shifts in sales count, right, back to back. So definitely something we need to be paying attention to, Paul. I love that you brought that up there. Hopefully, Koa, that did help answer your question. We are rolling with the Levis 1-of-1 there. Koa also wanted to provide an update for us from a recent Overflow show where we were talking. Anthony Richardson says, not a question, just an update. My 2023 Prism Anthony Richardson White Sparkle came back as a PSA 9. I'm a little bummed because it did look perfect to me, but for $250, can't really complain. Looking forward to selling during the hype cycle. Koa, we're looking forward to letting you know when to sell during the hype cycle. So we're going to be sending out a lot of alerts. We're going to be doing a lot of breakdowns as the NFL season does approach. But Paul, anything else you wanted to add from this update?
Congrats, Koa. That's a sick looking card. And I mean, I think you'll probably be able to move that for quite a bit. $250 in. I think AR is going to be hot in July. I think he's going to be hot in August. That's when I'd try to look to move it. Would be cool, Koa, if you can make it to the National. We'd love to see you there. Connor and I are going to be there, obviously. And would be great to see you move a card like this, try to move it at the National. I think that'd be, to move a white sparkle like this in person to just get cash for it would kind of be, I think would kind of be a cool move. And with the Levis 1-of-1, maybe, you know, but even if you have to sell them on eBay, I still think I still think you'll do well. Thick looking card on that AR white sparkle.
Koa, thanks for the submission, sir, and appreciate the support in the live chat on Mondays and Wednesdays during the Sports Card Strategy Show. Keep the questions coming our way. Up next, we're going over to Brian F. Says, NFL draft auction timing question. Do we want all auctions to finish before the draft ends on Thursday, or do we want to time some of them to end that weekend? Caleb Williams cards seem obvious. Have them in the night of the draft. More for cards like Bo Nix, 2023 Bowman Chrome Aqua PSA 10, and O'Donnell Mitchell's 2023 Bowman Chrome out of 25 PSA 10, who might surprise everyone and go in the first round. Or you've got running backs like Trey Benson, auto PSA 10s, who might go as expected in the second or third rounds. Should I time these to end on Saturday or Sunday? Also, you've got quarterback Jordan Travis autos. Are these a hold until they get a chance to play or sell on draft weekend 2? I was hoping to meet you guys at the card show in Chantilly, but missed you. Says, thanks, Ryan. I think this is a good question here, Paul. We've talked about not having blanket statements for selling prospects, but this is kind of asking about a blanket statement for auctioning prospects, right? So it's an interesting question. We're kind of peeling things back another layer. My thoughts are that the NFL draft is going to start on a Thursday and end on a Saturday. So I don't hate the idea of having your auctions end. And this is for both the high-profile prospects and the less prominent guys. I don't hate the idea of them ending during the weekend. People could have more time to be paying attention to sports news, watching the draft, etc. during the weekend. And with the draft starting on a Thursday and ending on a Saturday, I don't hate the chance of getting residuals from the teams they go to, that the fans having a lot of hype. And if you were to have auctions in for guys on a Thursday and end up slipping to Friday, you could be missing the hype from the fan base surrounded around them of the team that player specifically goes to. But just my thought there, I kind of like the idea of residuals here, Paul. What do you think in terms of these auctions?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, here's how I'll break this down. Like, thank you, Brian, first of all, for all the love and for submitting this awesome photo of all the cards and for giving us some details around like all the different guys that you have. So we try to explain this as best we can on the Sports Card Strategy show and throughout all of our content in terms of how to handle the selling marker that is the NFL draft. But to Connor's point, it's totally different for each player, and it is going to be dependent on where they get drafted. So let's start with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams, there's two different schools of thought. Number one, you could end it on the Thursday night when he's, because there's going to be Caleb Williams's face is going to be the dominant face of all of the content around the NFL draft for the week leading up to it, all the way to the Thursday night. Okay. But then to Connor's point, you're going to have like the Bears, likely. We don't know what's going to happen, but likely the Bears are going to have like a press conference, and there's going to be some residuals, like Connor's talking about, even with Caleb Williams. So I don't think it's a bad idea to actually end your Caleb Williams auctions Friday, Saturday, even Sunday. I don't think it's a bad idea because there's going to be news articles written about him through the weekend. Okay. Now, the other guys, though, let's talk about Malik Neighbors. I would not end your Malik Neighbors auctions on the Thursday night because while he's not the face of the NFL draft, but he could go as high as like number 6 overall to the Giants. He could even go higher than that potentially because, we don't know. That's why I love the NFL draft. Like, there's all the speculation, but if you go back and look, it's always way different than what we thought it was going to be. So Malik Neighbors could be a top 5 pick. He could definitely be a top 10 pick. I would wait on selling Malik Neighbors until there's a point in time where there's some Malik Neighbors hype kind of by himself. So that could be as early as Friday or Saturday or Sunday if he does get taken in the top 6, and there's like a lot of coverage for Malik Neighbors in the NFL world, and especially if he goes to a market like New York with the Giants. It also depends where you bought in on that card, right? So if you bought in super low, maybe raw, and it got graded a PSA 9, and you're only $50 to $60 into that as a total investment, then I think you could list in an auction starting on Thursday night after he gets drafted and list it in a 7-day auction and get the residuals of it. If you're somebody that bought in higher, a lot of our one-on-one people bought in higher because we started telling our one-on-one people about Malik Neighbors in January and February, and a lot of the listings were, we thought, good deals, and we still think our one-on-one people can make money on them, but they're a little bit higher because they were graded and they were like much lower serial numbered than the base that you have, Brian. So they're in a little bit of a different situation than you are with Malik Neighbors because they're probably going to want to wait until Malik Neighbors has like a performance in July or August, and there's, maybe dynasty drafts are drafting him really high, and different things are happening around Malik Neighbors specifically that I do believe will happen. What's tough about a guy like Malik Neighbors related to the NFL draft is he's one of like 700 players to 1,000 players that's going to be talked about over a 4-day period of time. So while he might be one of the top 6 guys, he still is competing with all those other players for the airtime. So I think you really have to be careful with Neighbors. I think it depends where you bought in. You could definitely list in a 7-day auction starting after he becomes a top 10 pick. I think is probably a better idea than starting it when you would start a Caleb Williams auction. Same thing for Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix falls exactly into what I just said for Malik Neighbors. Same with Rome Odunze. I actually think this Rome Odunze Bowman U Sapphire Chrome First PSA 10 is a beautiful card. The fact that it's Sapphire Edition and the fact that it's PSA 10 is phenomenal. I would almost hold that one until there's a Rome Odunze news article about, XYZ team that takes him thinks he's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that article comes out in July or August, and then you sell that Roma Dunze. Now, if you're into that Roma Dunze card, you say you pulled it out of a pack, graded it, and it got a 10, you're into it $21 or $25. You could definitely sell it probably with an auction that starts Thursday night after he gets drafted, because he's probably going to be a top 25 pick. So that's another school of thought. I also would put Michael Penix Jr. in a similar type of conversation to the Bo Nix, Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze. I almost think that this Michael Penix Jr. card is, I believe it's serial numbered out of 99 because it's green, although PSA labels don't say the serial numbered, which I wish they did. But I believe it's a serial numbered out of 99 green PSA 9 auto, which is a great card, but it's not his first. His first was actually in 2021. So I think if Penix goes in the first round, like if Penix goes higher than what people thought he's going to go, like let's say he goes in the top 15, I might list it at the end of the first round so that you get like the 7-day residual of all the hype of him being a first round pick. If he goes in the second or third round, I think that card's a hold until July or the preseason. So you can see it's a lot like if this, then that scenario with a lot of these cards. It's not just as turnkey as, oh, you've got all these guys and they're going to get drafted, so we're going to list them all. Now let's move down to the other tier. Trey Benson, Mitchell, and Jordan Travis. Let's take Jordan Travis. Okay, Jordan Travis was being projected anywhere from a first round pick all the way to, fifth or sixth round during his amazing season. And then he had the devastating leg injury, and now it's like he's going to go undrafted. I think Jordan Travis, I'm not an NFL draft expert, but my gut tells me he goes undrafted. Somebody immediately signs him as an unrestricted free agent, and he becomes like a scout team quarterback for somebody going into the preseason, and he might get some reps. So I think what you need to do with your Jordan Travis card, it's unfortunate because it's a great card. The mini fuchsia diamond with the Florida State uniform actually looks really cool. It's an auto PSA 9. So I think that's actually serial numbered out of 199, the mini diamond fuchsia, or 149. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's a relatively lower serial numbered, or lower than like the refractor out of 499 and all that. So, but I just don't think that there's going to be anything to talk about with Jordan Travis, really. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe he goes in the third round, somebody like takes a flyer on him. You never know with the NFL draft, but if that happens, I would sell it now. My gut tells me that Jordan Travis this card is going to be something that you wait until there's some Jordan Travis news. The beautiful thing about football cards is that this is like the crappy thing and the beautiful thing. Players get injured all the time. So you can have a card of a guy who's injured, and then when he comes back, the value can rise and you can sell it in this case. But also with Jordan Travis, as he comes back, there's actually a good chance that when he does come back healthy and get picked up by a team, he's getting picked up because somebody else got injured. Right? Like that's how the NFL works. So it's almost like a double down amount of interest on Jordan Travis that I would wait for in that type of scenario. That probably will happen. If you can wait, I would wait for that. I don't know that much about Trey Benson and Mitchell from Texas, but I know enough about wide receivers and running backs that aren't the top names to tell you that I just don't I think so. Let's break it down card by card. You've got a Trey Benson Sapphire first auto PSA 10. So in the event that Trey Benson becomes something that people care about in the NFL, that is a banger card. So I would hold that, because this guy's not going to have investable cards until probably October or November. And because he's a running back that might go on day 2 or even day 3, he's probably not going to have even that many pro uniform rookie cards. So I would wait on selling the Trey Benson. I just think Connor might tell me something that I don't know about Trey Benson here in a second, but I just think that no one cares that much about Trey Benson to invest in his cards over NFL draft weekend. I think that there's maybe a different selling marker for your Trey Benson cards. But what you could do, the real smart move is take your auto fuchsia mini diamond PSA 8, which even though it looks sick with the Florida State uniform, and even though it's serial numbered and the Sapphire is not, because it's a PSA 8 and the Sapphire is a PSA 10, the Sapphire PSA 10 is more desirable. It's going to go for more money. You could list your Benson PSA 8 in draft weekend if he gets drafted higher than expected. Get a little bit more money and test the Benson market there, and then hold that PSA 10 for when there's more interest around him in camp or in the preseason. Sell that one then, or if the starter goes down in front of him, now you got a banger card for that guy. Mitchell, I know next to nothing about. Orange out of 25, PSA 10 non-auto, still a desirable card. I might take the same exact approach with that Mitchell that I did with Benson, just because you just don't know what's going to happen. But because that's a non-auto, even though it's an auto 25 PSA 10 and it looks sick in orange with the Texas uniform, I just don't think it's like a huge card. So it's almost like I would probably try to move that because he's a wide receiver. I'd try to move that if he gets drafted this NFL draft weekend higher than expected. I would probably try to move it because I think because he's a wide receiver as a rookie and he's not Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze, and he's not Brock Bowers. I know Bowers is a tight end, but outside of those names, I don't see that much hype for any other wide receiver or tight end where it's going to greatly increase the value of their card market. The Benson cards are a little different because they're autographs, and the one is the Sapphire PSA 10. So I know that's a lot, but I really like when people give us all the details. So props to Brian for giving us the photos, breaking it down. I think I agree with what Connor said, but I like to go card by card and break it down. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I think the other good news here is that a lot of these are like almost the perfect card, right? So I'm almost, Paul, I love that you mentioned about how many guys would be, you just mentioned the number between 700 and 1,000 different guys are going to be talked about during the NFL draft. I think once you get outside of kind of those first round super hype guys, and you, especially once we move into skill position guys that could be second, third, fourth round, it's almost like something you could equate to the NBA, Paul. Like when Luka went for 70, his prices didn't go crazy because of how many games they play throughout a season that it's almost like hard for there to be singled out. I think the NFL draft is going to be similar for guys that aren't lottery picks or super big hype. Once we get into the rounds 2, 3, 4, the draft might not be the biggest marker, even if they have a lot of good things said about them or they had a great pro day, whatever it may be. It's going to be card by card basis. So I think that's a great breakdown, Paul. Brian, be sure to keep us posted on the route that you go in moving these. And if you have more questions, definitely be sure to let us know. Moving right along, we're heading over to some eBay news from Chuck T. Says eBay has announced a new promoted listing standard, and they've hopefully not included actual costs to the updated standards. Perhaps you've had better luck at deciphering their quote-unquote great news about promotion and what it means to little sellers like us. Says what I'd like is for you guys to address how this changes your promotion philosophy for listing auctions versus buy it nows. Thanks as always. I've never registered my eBay site as an actual store. I assume this might change. Might mean I should become an official eBay store. Anyway, if you don't mind delving into the pros and cons of this, it would be great to hear your thoughts. Paul, curious to see what you think in regards to this new eBay announcement.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck T, for the question, man. Okay, so let me first say I don't have an eBay store either. I'm just a eBay account regular seller. So for those of you who don't know, there is a difference between just being an eBay seller, and you can be a top rated eBay seller, which I am. And many of you probably are. We got at Sports Card School, it tells you all about how to become a top rated seller on eBay. You don't need to be a store. You need to be a store only if you're doing such high volume that it then becomes economical for you to be a store. There are some features that eBay stores get, but really what you want to try to be is an eBay top rated seller, and you don't need to worry about being a store, just because when you're an eBay top rated seller, you actually do save on the percentage that eBay takes out as fees, which is nice. So I would put your focus more there, Chuck, than on worrying about becoming a store, unless you're like a massive card shop or a massive seller or like a breaker who gets allocation and just has a ridiculous amount of product to move. And so your eBay store is kind of like your bottom of the barrel type situation for not being able to move your high end stuff in breaks or, single sales or stuff like that. So I think that, now to the promoted listings, I know we've said in the past that when you list something in an auction, it's not a bad idea to promote it. However, I've never really done, I've actually done that to test it, and it doesn't work that well. Like when I've taken the same card and promoted it at the same time as the same card that's not promoted, and the unpromoted one did better than the promoted one. So I don't think that there's not a guarantee that just because you promote something that it's going to do better. I don't think it actually hurts it to promote it. I don't think people look at it and go, oh, that's promoted, so I'm not going to look at it or watch it or bid on it. So I wouldn't, I'm not saying not to promote it. I'm just saying in my own personal experience, just because you promote something doesn't mean that it's going to do better. So when you promote an auction and you're a top rated seller, they will take a portion of, I'm sorry, I think I might be getting this wrong. When you promote something and it's an auction and you're a top rated seller, you will pay a flat fee one time. So you know what that is. When you are selling in a buy it now or best offer and you're a top rated seller, depending on what the item sells for, you will pay initially to promote it, and then you will likely pay again on a percentage of what it goes for. And so if you end up, the reason why I break this down is because, and I might be getting some of the details wrong, but the punchline is when you auction something and you promote it, you're pretty much guaranteed, like the item's going to move. So your promotion fee is not going to be wasted. It's super small. When you promote something and it's a buy it now or best offer, you pay right away and it's only like $1.99, but still that item's not guaranteed to ever move in that format on eBay, right? So you might just be paying those $2 for nothing, which sucks. Like, even though it's $2, you don't want to do that. Okay, now to your question. It looks like what they've done, Chuck, is what they're saying they're going to do, and it doesn't launch until another few weeks, April 29th. So I will have a better answer if somebody asks me after I've actually done this or seen it in my eBay account, but my understanding is it's not live yet. It does say effective April 15th, which is in a few days, but across the eBay network on April 29th. So that's a little fuzzy. But basically, it looks like what it's changing is that you can, instead of like paying that flat fee that we've been paying, I think it looks like you can actually maybe bid to outrank other similar promoted listings, which reeks of like a Google ads. Like, I know this because I used to be in digital marketing heavily and I would run Google AdWords campaigns. So it looks like it's going to become more of like I've got this card, and it looks like they're going to launch maybe this advanced dashboard where it's like, instead of just saying pay to promote this, which is just like one click and then you don't really know what's happening, this is going to be more of an advanced dashboard where it would be like, okay, you've got this card, and now in order to outrank the other listings of the same card, you have to like bid higher than these other people because these other people have bid at this. That's what I took away when I read this little brief here that you sent us the link to. But to be honest with you, I don't really know. And I don't really think that it's going to affect us that much. I think this is eBay. eBay is an amazing platform. If you think about what it allows all of us to do as sellers and who it allows us to reach, overall, it's an amazing platform. But I think that what you're talking about here, Chuck, is an extremely advanced feature that I don't even really know how much it helps us. Because I think, again, when you're buying the right card for the right player at the right time, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's true. you're not going to need to promote things and outbid other people with the same item. People are just going to want your item. Connor, the reason why I dropped everything else I was doing in my life and got into sports cards is because I was like, this is a product that sells itself. I don't have to sell this to anyone. Now, if I got, unfortunately, like, sorry to Chris, like, who, you know, I know we kind of like said wrong early at the beginning of this show. But if you buy the wrong cards, then yeah, nobody's going to want them. And then if you're trying to sell them, people are going to want them less. You know, if you're trying to sell people on buying them from you, they're going to want them less. But that's the beautiful thing about the hobby. Like, if you have the right stuff, people are going to want it. So I think it's a great question, Chuck. Hopefully the answer helped you. I don't know if it did. If it didn't, please let me know, and please ask follow-up questions so I can further clarify.
Thank you for the submission, Chuck. Up next, we're going over to Bo R. It says, hey guys, I'm wondering if you have any strategy suggestions for finding gradable raw cards at shows of the folks that you have ranked on the website. I am typically looking to purchase raw cards to grade during the off season, and I have had difficult time finding much at the Burbank show in February and the Arizona State show in March. It seems that most of the dealers did not have much football stuff out at all, since they probably realized they would make better sales in a few months when everyone is chasing football. I couldn't even find raw Prism CJ Stroud cards. Should I just go flipping through all the bins when I only see slabs in their cases? Says I ended up buying some graded Willie Mays cards in Phoenix since the prices were good. I didn't want to go home empty-handed after driving all day. I am going to attend the Dallas card show in July, and I'm most likely going to attend the National a few weeks later. I'm mainly going to be looking for Bowman First autos of baseball prospects and female basketball cards like Juju Watkins and Paige Buchers. I feel like it's going to be past the prime time for football stuff once we get into July. Am I better off just using eBay? It's not nearly as fun, but at least I'll be able to get exactly what I'm looking for. I do really want to check out the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. That might be a cool meetup for no off-season members. Thanks for your insight, and keep on rocking in the free world. Bo, this is a great submission here. And I love that you mentioned a lot of good stuff, and I feel like you almost answered your own question at different times here. So here's my feedback, and then I'll kick it over to Paul for kind of that finite answer. But it definitely matters when and where you're visiting card shows. You know, like you mentioned, you said it seems that most dealers did not have much football stuff out at all, since they probably realized that they would make better sales in a few months when everyone is chasing football. Bo, if you were looking for football cards, this is probably why they weren't out. Like, the sellers are astute humans. So like I said, it definitely matters when and where you're visiting card shows. Sellers still want to make money, and they likely won't be listing as much football during a down period. In terms of tips for being actually at card shows and finding the cards, I would say Sports Card School does have a number of tips on successfully buying at card shows that helps you build connections and network your way. And I think when you network and build connections at these shows, it kind of lets you get into your own niche of finding what you're looking for in the cards that you're targeting. Paul, I also think patience and asking will be very key. Paul, I think that's something you're very good at. It shows networking with people, asking people basic questions that some people just don't ask, and then patience. I think that's a lot. Vendors do know other vendors. So if you ask them if they have specific or sports-specific cards and they don't, there's a decent chance that they do know someone with or without a booth that may have the cards that they're looking to sell. Vendors are not the only people selling. I think that's another thing to consider. There's a lot of kids running around that are selling. There's a lot of people that don't have booths that are still looking to sell, that'll just walk up to booths and say, hey, are you guys buying? And not everyone has all their cards out. So be a sleuth, ask a lot of questions, and be patient. Those would be some of my tips there, Paul. But what else do you got here for our guy, Bo R?
Yeah, that was all great for sure. And I'll unpack that a little bit more just from my card show experience. So I think there's a few schools of thought, and Bo, you're clearly looking to buy, which is great. I think, going to a card show looking to buy is obviously a great thing, because there's a lot of advantages to being able to hold the card in your hand, especially if it's something that you want to get graded. So I think preparation is key if this is your angle. If your angle is to go to a card show, pick up cards to grade, whether you're going to crack them out of a slab or whether you're going to find them raw to grade them, it is better than eBay. It is better than buying on a Discord or buying off of a social media group. So there's nothing better than being at a card show if this is your angle. However, it's also very hard because of the volume of cards that are there. So to Connor's point, I think you do have to ask if there are particular cards that you're looking for that you want to get graded. I do think asking the vendor if they do have those cards is definitely going to be your most efficient and effective way to navigate the card show. I think after using our formula for about a week now and work, Connor and I have been working on the formula like almost all day, every day for about the past week. And so as I look at the formula more and more, I start to think, wow, this is an amazing tool for being at a card show, because you could take the raw to grade opportunities, and because the formula prioritizes those for you based on ROI, you could take that to a card show and use that as your like what card you're going to go look for. And then if you can find those cards at the card show and hold them in your hand, you can pre-grade them right there. You can also do that same thing with slabs that you want to crack and submit to PSA. That's the other thing I like about being at the card shows. However, I think that it's okay to not buy cards at a card. It's okay to go to a card show, and I know it's like this. It would be disappointing to like walk away with no cards, but it's also like better to do that than it is to buy the wrong cards, in my opinion, and what we try to do here at nooffseason.com. So I think preparation is key. Knowing exactly what you want to get out of the card show is key in terms of what cards you're looking for. But also, I also say, contrary to that, is I say, don't necessarily walk into a card show looking for particular cards either. So anyway, like one way of doing this is you could go through the list that you prepared, and if you can't find them, then go around and just look for deals. And I think looking for deals at card shows is really what you want to do. So as you're looking through those value boxes and those dollar boxes, look for serial numbered cards, look for cards of recognizable players about sports that you're familiar with that you might think that the dealer might not know, so if you're soccer, hockey, golf, even like defensive players in football, older cards, more vintage cards that are in dollar boxes and things like that. Those are the kinds of things, a 2015 Travis Kelce Topps Finest refractor, like out of 99, I think is what I picked up one time in a value box for like a few bucks. Not his rookie card, but it was Travis Kelce. It looked gradable. And I got a PSA 10 and I sold it for like $200 in August. So it was like $3 in a value box to $21 graded. So like less than $25 all in to like over $200 on eBay. Those are the kinds of things, like that's hard to repeat without totally grinding the what out of a card show. But like, I think if you talk to the best flippers in the game who do that at card shows, and we've got some of them in the nooffseason.com fam, by the way, you're really more doing that kind of a thing than you are going in looking for specific cards.
Love it. Perfect breakdown there from Paul. I think there's just a lot, and the more that we go to shows, Paul, with how we talk about stuff, like we're going to continue to find new stuff in terms of tricks and tips for finding options that are going to make you money at these card shows. So be sure to stay tuned to more content that we're going to roll out in that regard. But good stuff there. Bo, appreciate the questions and definitely keep the questions coming to nooffseason.com/ask. Up next, Paul, we're going to roll over to Jordan L. You were just mentioning the formula. Jordan is curious about it. Says, hey, Paul and Connor, I'm excited about the formula and how it might help us find plays. I previously asked about further details of it, but figured this might be the place where you would be more comfortable sharing. I guess I simply just wanted to ask, what are the factors that go into it? Do they differ for the graded versus 2-grade formula? I understand that it is intended to capture much of what you were already focused on, but any further detail would be much appreciated. Thanks again for the great content and hard work you guys are putting in. It has helped to foster community where I'm seeing people help each other on a daily basis. As we all learn more and share more, we're all going to become more successful. Having the community makes it fun, more fun to flip and collect cards. Jordan, we appreciate the kind words. Paul, I'm going to let you take the reins here on how much we're looking to disclose from the formula and what we want to share in terms of news with our premium members.
Yeah, thanks. So thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. And yes, you are right, sir, that this is always going to be the format that I'm going to want to answer just about every question. So please keep them coming at nooffseason.com/ask, especially if you're a premium member. Premium members sometimes like to DM me on Instagram or email me individually, and I'm always going to be fine with that, but I'm probably always going to redirect you guys to nooffseason.com/ask so that I can answer on the Overflow Show premium pod. So thanks, Jordan. So the formula, here's what I'll say about it. I mean, let's start with the raw to grade because that's very different. The raw to grade was built under the assumption that you don't need a selling marker because you're going to take the math of a raw card to a PSA 9 or a PSA 10, look at the gem rate and look at the total all-in cost. And then the gem rate is going to tell you the probability to a certain extent of what your average sale price could be. So that part of the formula for the raw to grade basically has a modifier in it for the average. There's a projected average sale price that is kind of like, that's an important column in the formula. The other important column is your all-in cost, right? Your projected total cost. So for raw to grade, it's obviously how much is the card and how much is the grading fee. The part of the formula that we look at to get to your average sale price is what are the odds of you getting a PSA 10, a PSA 9, a PSA 8? So there's math involved based on the gem rate. Okay, so then there's a modifier in the projected average sale price. And the modifier is going to take into account the gem rate. So the likelihood of a PSA 10 or a PSA 9 or a PSA 8, etc., based on the historical data of that card being graded. Like, so that makes sense. Those are all like very real numbers. We're not like concocting anything. The modifier in the projected average sale price is going to take into account like not only the gem rate or the likelihood of a particular grade, but it's also going to take into account like how old is the card. So if the card is older than say 2021 at this point, because we're in 2024, our assumption is that most of the market has like skimmed over that card and it's either been cracked out of slabs because it's a lower grade or it hasn't been graded because it's a lower grade, and that's why it's being sold raw. Now, that's not going to be the case for every raw card. Some raw card, you could go get a Joe Burrow 2020 Prism that could get a PSA 10, and you can find those. You can find those everywhere. But our assumption is that based on the fact that we look at a lot of cards on a daily basis that are available for sale, and we see, wow, this probably isn't going to gem, we put that modifier in there the older the card. Now, if it's a CJ Stroud 2023 or if it's a Victor Wembanyama 2023, there's more of an assumption of, okay, this probably would have a better chance to gem if it does look centered, if it does look like there's no surface issues or edge issues or corner issues. We're probably not as high of a likelihood that we're missing something because it actually is a newer card and conceivably somebody just is selling it raw because they ripped it out of a pack or won it in a break or something like that. So that's kind of the modifier that I'm talking about with the raw to grade. The most important part of what the formula does, though, that nothing else in the world does other than our formula, is it takes all of those factors and then it reverse engineers a projected ROI off of a profit goal. So in other words, it tells you if your profit goal, and we're assuming that the profit goal is $1,000, the profit goal can be changed to tell you how many of each card that you need to buy and grade and what your total buy-in is. So that's what's kind of neat about the formula, is that you can say, if you want to make $5,000 on this card, you need to buy X amount of them. And your total buy-in that you need, your total cash flow that you need is X, Y, Z. But where the formula just works globally for everyone is as a prioritization tool. It's the formula at its very, very simplest is it's a prioritization tool. So this kind of gets me to the announcement that I kind of want to make to everybody, is that we're going to roll out the formula first for premium members. I haven't decided exactly how to do it yet, but we're going to roll it out as a prioritization tool, meaning we're going to display it in a a user interface that's not going to be necessarily changeable by the user of nooffseason.com, but it's going to be a visual tool that you could see that essentially ranks all of the cards, individual cards that we've put through the formula based on the ROI of the card, which means like the profit margin of the card. So, and it's going to tell you all the data. So it will tell you if you want to make $1,000 grading Victor Wembanyama's base prism right now, as of right now, you need 13 of them and you need $1,182.22 all in, including the grading fees. And you're likely to make 85%. So that's your $1,000 return, like total profit that you get from that. So it's going to tell you all those numbers when we roll it out. You're just not going to be able to like change the number of your total profit goal and all that stuff, but and it's going to be immediately sorted by the top card. So those will, the formula will effectively be like our actual sports card rankings. Whereas the sports card rankings right now are player-based rankings based off of the formula. It's based off of the formula, but when you drill down, you see multiple cards per player. When we release the actual formula data to the nooffseason.com premium members, it's going to be like on a card-by-card basis, not on a player-by-player basis. So I'm excited about that. Now, the graded is different. The graded, it's the exact same thing that I just described, but the only major difference, other than the obvious one, which is you're not going to have a grading fee and you're not going to have a gem rate because you know what card you're buying, a card that's already graded, is the projected average sale price. So whereas on the raw to grade, we give you a real price based on real market data at that time. And we're updating it as close to live time as possible, like give or take a few days per card, things like that. We have to get an average projected sale price with the already graded card based on a selling marker. So whereas the raw to grade is not necessarily dependent on a selling marker to profit because you're using the grading of the card to increase its value, the already graded is dependent on a selling marker because the only thing that's going to increase the value of that card is the selling marker. So what we're doing is we're running cards through the formula that are already graded is we're looking at historical data trends and picking a conservative average sale price for an upcoming selling marker that we know is going to occur for that player based on historical data of the same card. It at times on the calendar that are similar to the upcoming selling marker that we know are going to happen. So while it is a little bit more of an actual projection, it is still based on historical data. And what you find when you look at the projected ROI column of the cards in the graded formula is most of them will have like a 20 to 30% projected ROI because it's very, very conservative. There are some anomalies where if you can find deals, and this past Wednesday's show on like a Najee Harris 2021 Optic Hollow PSA 10 or a Najee Harris 2021 Prism Silver PSA 10, Darius Garland, cards like that, and they're lower pop count, so it's harder to find. But on some of those cards, you can get like 113% back. You can get 60% back on already graded cards at selling markers that we know are coming. It is harder, though, I will say, to actually find those cards. Like they're based on the total target cost or snipe price. It's kind of the same thing. Target cost snipe price is real because it's based on the most recent sale, but that doesn't mean that there are listings available for that sale. What it does mean, though, Connor and everybody else, is that you can use that most recent comp to go try to negotiate. And when you find that card, you use that most recent comp to go try to negotiate that price, whether it's an offer on eBay, an offer on MySlabs, an offer on My Card Post, an offer through a Discord or a Facebook group, or an offer at a card show or a card shop. Everybody uses comps for that stuff. So it's still very, very relevant piece of the formula to use to try to find the card. We had a question on a post of Wednesday's show from a premium member. And I'm just going to toss it in. The comment was, I haven't been able to find any of these cards for the prices that you listed them for. Well, yeah, I get it, because those are the top 5 cards that you could profit on the most. And so they're actually going to be some of the hardest to find because A, they're low pop count, or B, people just aren't going to want to list them yet because it's not the selling marker yet. But that doesn't mean that you can't use that information to go try to negotiate off of that most recent comp. Go do that. But yeah, it's not going to be easy to find our top 5. That's the whole point. But as we run more cards through the formula, you're going to be able to make money using the formula. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about it, Connor, and let me know if I missed anything, is I think people are thinking about, well, you haven't really said, like, how we get access to this. We're still working on the user experience on the website for making this the most valuable possible to all of our premium members at nooffseason.com. I've got it far enough along to where what I think I'm going to do is email a link to a web page on nooffseason.com that shows you all of the formula and shows you the rankings based on the formula. I'm going to email that to any member who has already paid money to be a premium member. And then moving forward, anyone who renews after their free trial, I will email them a link as like a thank you. Hey, thank you for renewing to pay for your membership after your free 30-day trial. I'll email them the link to the page that has the formula on it, so that it's an incentive for people to actually pay for this, because it is worth $20 a month or $225 a year.
Great breakdown. Yeah, I think, Jordan, it's a good question. We're glad you asked. And I think it's an exciting time just at nooffseason.com in general, because we're still doing the same things that we were doing, but now we have kind of data-driven information to continue to steer us in ways and give us finite answers. Also gives us more opportunities. So definitely really excited to keep kind of growing and finding more opportunities and letting the formula guide us. And obviously, like Paul's saying, stay tuned, premium members, because it is going to be rolling out in terms of some sort of access for you guys in the near future. Up next, we're rolling over to Rob B. It says, hey there, I bought a Quinn Ewers Saturday Stars signatures and looked good on eBay, but after receiving it, I do not believe it will gem. Raw is selling for almost double a PSA 9 from what I can see. Is this a keep and sell Raw at the sell marker situation? Here's my thoughts real quick. Market Mover suggests that there have been 0 10s traded on the secondary markets. And then if you look at the cost for Raw, it says $107 across 17 sales over the last 90 days compared to PSA 9, which is just $65 across only 2 sales over the last 90 days. If you go to gem rate to look at data there, 25 of these have been graded and there's only been 5 10s. However, there have been 17 9s, which means you have a 68% chance to get a 9. And if you look at 9s, 8s, and 7s, you have an 80% chance to get a 9, an 8, or 7. Paul, I don't know about you, but with PSA 9 prices being so low, and we already don't believe it will gem based on what Rob's saying, I'm definitely selling this card raw when the sell market presents itself, because I do not want to be part of that 80% chance to get a 9, an 8, or a 7 in either half or less than half the value of the card as it currently stands. What are your thoughts here, Paul?
Yeah, I like it. I think your data's great, Connor. I agree with it. And I think, I like to say that, Rob, for example, thank you for the question. This is great. I think it's a great card. I do think it'll do well at the selling marker. I think you bought it at the right time. I think, Rob, because you can see it and you feel like it's not going to gem, then yeah, don't put $25 more into it or 15 more, 15 to 25 more dollars into it to get a 9 or an 8 or whatever. If you know it's not going to be a 10 just by looking at it, I think gem rate is great. We include it in the formula. I think it's smart for us to always talk about it related to these things, but nothing beats actually seeing the card and determining whether or not you think it's going to gem. And so I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping it raw and selling it. I think the counter argument is that if you're doing a lot of volume and you don't have a lot of time to deal with crap from buyers who get a card and want to return it because of something that wasn't shown in a photo or wasn't mentioned in a description or a title, because eBay does protect the buyer so much, I do think you have to ask yourself, just before you make your final decision here, Rob, you just have to ask yourself, like, how am I going to sell it? Am I going to sell it in person? Am I going to sell it through a Facebook group or a Discord, or am I going to sell it on eBay? And if the answer is I'm for sure going to sell it on eBay, you just have to ask yourself the question of, is it worth $25 to not have to deal with someone's crap who bought it from me, who then wants to return it because it's raw, but it's not in the condition they thought it was going to be in raw? Because I'm the person that doesn't want that. I'm the person that would rather sell a Quinn Ewers 8, PSA 8 of this card and not have to deal with anyone's crap because they knew it was an 8 and take a little bit less of a profit margin than sell it raw and probably leave myself susceptible to either a return or a percentage discount off of it anyway. So I always answer that question a little bit differently because I've been in that situation. So I think, it's up to you, Rob. Let us know what you do. Perfectly fine to sell it raw. You bought it raw. You don't think it's going to gem, sell it raw. I think it's going to go up and you're going to make money. Or it's also okay to roll the dice, see if it gems, because you never know. Maybe it does gem, and then you're up huge, or it comes back an 8 or a 9, and it's still hopefully likely to go up from where you bought it for raw, even though the comps right now say that it's less than raw.
Rob, thanks for the question. Paul, thanks for the feedback there. We're going to stick with some more grading questions as we roll over now to Kevin O. Says, hey, I have a Bowman Chrome U out of 99 auto of Marvin Harrison Jr. First Bowman, not graded. Could be a 10. Might have a little corner issue. Tell me what to do. Should I try to grade it ASAP to see what it gets, or should I just sell it raw? And if yes, when? I opened it from a pack, so if I sell, it is profit in my mind, but I want to get the best results. Trying to send photos, but not allowing my pics to be attached. Let me know how to do that in the future. Paul, with 13 days until the draft is about to start, what's the play here with this Marvin Harrison out of 99 that has not yet been graded?
I think because you pulled it from a pack, and thanks for the details there, Kevin. That's always important. So thank you for that. Because you pulled it from a pack, I think I would sell it raw now around the draft hype, because Harrison's like one of the top 3 names in the draft from just a name recognition standpoint and a likely top 5 pick. So, and the likely top skill position player outside of quarterbacks, obviously. So I think that he's an anomaly versus the whole conversation we had earlier about Brian's cards. So in the situation where you've got this in hand right now, someone's going to want it in hand. And if you grade it now, like, you're not going to get it back. I don't care what service level or what grading company you send it to. You're probably not going to get it back at the selling marker of the NFL draft. So, I mean, if you would have told me you paid $650 for this card, I would say, all right, well, let's wait for like a Marvin Harrison Jr. like hype cycle on his own independently of the NFL draft to hope that thing goes up. But because you pulled it out of a pack, I mean, I think this is a $400 to $700 transaction for you, hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks. So I would list it actually now in a buy it now or best offer format for around like $750, maybe even higher. I'd take really good photos of it, and front and back, really good photos. If you've got a light box, or, if you don't have a light box, you can order one off of eBay. They're like $20. Get it in time to put it in the light box in a nice one touch. I'd get like a brand new one touch. You can order it online, or you can just go to Walgreens. Walgreens actually has like brand new one touch cases. And so they make these cards look much better in a brand new one touch. Put it in a light box, take nice photos. This is a card that should do very, very well with really good photos in a buy it now or best offer through the NFL draft. And if it doesn't move, I would say by the end of the night, Thursday night, when Marvin Harrison gets drafted, then you could take it down and put it back up with the same photos as a auction, 7 to 10 day auction. Started around 7 or 8 p.m. in the auction. On Friday night of the NFL draft, even though it was like 24 hours after Marvin Harrison Jr. got drafted, it should still do very, very well in that time period, because he is a huge name, and there's going to be a lot of hype around him coming out of the NFL draft. There's also going to be a lot of hype around him. If you would have told me, if your question would have said, this looks like it's going to gem, I might have said, well, because it is this card and because he's not going to have investable cards out in a pro uniform until probably November, that gives you a longer runway. So you could actually use a selling marker of like September or August for a card like this. If it was in a PSA 10, I would tell you to do that, especially if you had a lot of money into it. But because you don't have any money into it, because the NFL draft is coming up and you can cash in on that hype, that's what I would do. I'd get the money back in the bankroll. Real quick, what I'm going to do is share my screen and show you that at nooffseason.com/ask, there's the form. So I assume that what you tried to do to drop photos in of your cards was click the select files option here, or tried to drag in files. Accepted file types, meaning the end, like the at the end of the name of your photograph, there'd be a dot and then either PNG, PDF, JPG, and if it's got to be under 50 megabytes. So look at the size, but you should be able to drop as many files as you want into this part of the form. Just make sure that it's either a PNG, PDF, JPEG, and that it's not over 50 megabytes, and that would be how you would do that. So hopefully that answers all your questions.
Good stuff there. Appreciate the question there from Kevin. Moving right along, we're going to hear from ENT again, who a couple of weeks ago asked for some help identifying parallels and refractors. Says, my question is, do all Topps or Bowman Chrome refractors have the word refractor printed on the back? There are so many cards listed on eBay claiming to be Topps or Bowman Chrome refractors. However, nothing on the back of the card to indicate that the card is indeed a refractor, like a Prism, or other Panini card sets that have Prism versions. Looking forward to hearing your answer / thoughts. Paul, are the cards that Ian's seeing without any identification on the back on eBay actually refractors? What's going on here?
Topps and Bowman say refractor on the card. So if it is a refractor, it says the word refractor on the back of the card. Sometimes it's in super small print, depending on the release, the year, the design, all of that. Sometimes it's right under the card number. Sometimes it's like centered, at the top. Sometimes it's a little bit hidden, but yeah, it says refractor. Ian, thanks for the question. And there are like, if a card is a serial numbered card, it can be referred to as a refractor out of 99 or a refractor out of 149 or whatever. But typically it's a colored refractor out of a certain number. So if there's a card though that's just a regular like refractor. It's like there's the base card, there's like base paper, then there's a base chrome version with the same photo on it. Then there's a base refractor that's the same photo as the base, same photo as the paper, but it should look shinier, but even less subjectively than looking shinier. On the back of that card, it says the word refractor. If it's made by Topps, Bowman, like that's the same company, they all say refractor, whether it's F1, whether it's UEFA Champions League Soccer, Topps, Chrome, whether it's Bowman, baseball, made by Topps, like those all say refractor. So if it's listed as a refractor and it doesn't say refractor, then it's not listed properly. Also, if it's graded by a grading company on the label, it says refractor. So that's the other thing that you want to try to look at. I think the biggest maybe scam or inadvertent scam going could be exactly what Ian's trying to avoid, which is something that says refractor. I've seen this a lot. It says refractor in the listing. It's not a refractor in the photo. You got to double check that. Also, silver prisms. A lot of times you'll see silver prism and it's not a silver prism. There's even like PSA graded cards or SGC graded cards or CGC graded cards, whatever. Sometimes the seller will list it as a silver prism or a refractor in the title, but then the card clearly graded by PSA will say it won't say refractor on the label. So it's a incorrect title. So you really want to be careful of those two things. I think we've covered that. Is there anything we're missing on the whole refractor prism? I mean, I get that it's confusing, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything on what could be confusing about that. Ian, if there's anything else, please let us know. Always happy to answer your questions, man.
Yep. No, I think that's the good breakdown for it. I know we've talked about it a couple different times, but in regards to eBay titles, it can definitely be tricky. So good stuff there, Paul and Ian. Appreciate the question. Rounding things off, we're going to go over to Jeff M. Jeff says, I love the changes you've made to enhance the value of the membership. Jeff, we love hearing that. I PC a few guys, and as a huge Packers fan, Jordan Love is one of them. I plan to unload his lower end cards in September and have listed a few of my PC cards at a buy it now at a premium price to let them ride. My question is this: what would your thought process be in deciding if and when to sell a PC card that you can buy into later for a lower price, or when to hold because you believe it is actually going to increase in value and you'll have to pay more to get it back? Specifically, I have a PSA 10 Optic Contenders Jordan Love auto with an offer on it for $1,550 at that price, or maybe at what price do I take the cash with the thought that I can buy in at a lower price point later? I realize you flip and there's no way to predict performance spikes. Just looking for your thoughts on how to think about this for the next PC cards I want to hold, since you have studied the market patterns extensively. My main PC guys are Jordan Love and Jalen Green, along with some of the GOATs. Paul, this is a really interesting question. I don't typically like pair PCers and flippers necessarily in the same category. Like, we talk about people that flip to fund their PCs, but I don't think about people PCing cards and flipping the cards they're PCing specifically at different price points to try to make money. If that makes sense. So I'm excited to see what your answer is here.
Yeah, I think it's all just a big journey for all of us, right? Like, I think that we're all doing the same thing. You know, the only difference is that some people hold certain cards longer than others, and some people really want to really try to collect certain cards for whatever reason that they get excited about, which I totally get. So I think actually I love Jeff's question for a lot of reasons. There's a lot in here. There's a lot of great content in Jeff's question. So Jeff, thanks for the love. First of all, I feel great about the fact that someone is, and I know you're not the only one, but it really means a lot to have somebody recognize outwardly in a public forum the amount of work that Connor and I are putting into, like you said, just simply add value. Like, we're not asking for any extra money. We're always adding value, never raising the price. So we want to make this a place where all of the premium members just continue to get more and more value. And yeah, there might be opportunity to pay for different things, but ultimately this price point is where we're going to stay. And we want to just keep adding value and like making it impossible for anybody to leave. And so Jeff, appreciate your recognition of that. I will say that I love all of the great stuff that's in your question. So first of all, I love the strategy of first unloading the lower end cards of a player. Like that is what you should do as you approach a selling marker for anyone. I mean, we don't like blanket statements, but I am comfortable saying that if you own a lot of cards of a particular player leading into a selling marker, you are risking a lot less by unloading the lower end cards first. So I really, really like that, because at the end of the day, those are going to be the easiest ones to buy back. And you're not going to really miss those anyway. Like, even if you don't make money even if you don't make the amount of money that you thought you were going to make, or you break even, or you lose 5% or whatever it is, if it's like a base card, like, you're not going to miss that card anyway. So I love what Jeff's saying here. Now, there's a photo that you attached, Jeff, of this card, which is a 2020 Panini Contenders Optic Rookie Ticket Auto PSA 10 Jordan Love, who's got a cool signature, in my opinion. And this is on card auto. It's J with a heart for Love. I think it's cool. I love Jordan Love and I love Jalen Green, and I think Connor likes both of those guys too. So to answer your real question, though, which is, what is your thought process on deciding if and when to sell a PC card that you can buy into later for a lower price? I like it, because in my mind, it's like, why would you not? I think the key part, though, is like, do you know that you can get that card back? So for example, a true like collector will tell you, if it's like out of 5 or if it's out of 10, or if you have like an eBay saved search for a card, but you never get an email from eBay that card's listed, that's an indicator that you really shouldn't part with the card unless you're truly okay parting with the card. But like a card, even like this probably low pop PSA 10 of this Contenders Optic rookie ticket auto, I don't believe that it's serial numbered, which means that there probably are a lot of them. And so even a card like this, which is like a high end card, like this is easily a 4-figure card. And if it does approach the 5-figure mark, or even like, the $5,000, $7,000 mark for this card, like, yeah, if it's up that much from where you bought it from, that's the whole game, brother. So even if you're PCing Jordan Love, I think a true Jordan Love super collector would love this card, but would also say, look, if as part of being a true Jordan Love super collector, you happen to have this card and then it goes up 2, 3x, 4x. Yeah, get that money and then put yourself in a position where you can buy other things in your life, or put it back into other Jordan Love cards that maybe are more rare. Now, I didn't look up the pop count on this card. This could be like a pop 5. And then I would tell you, well, I don't know, if you're like really a Jordan Love collector, you might want to hang on to this thing, because then in that case, but I mean, if this is like a pop 200, pop 300 card, yeah, you could buy it back. And you could conceivably buy it back cheaper, especially if he gets injured. There's always a mid-season dip in the NFL. Always a mid-season dip in the NFL. Maybe the Packers just simply don't perform to expectations, which is very, very possible, because nothing ever happens the way you think it's going to happen in the NFL, which is why we like to get rid of all of our football cards in the beginning of September. So I think that I answered your question. Specifically, I have a PSA 10 Optic Contenders Auto Jordan Love with an offer on it for $1,550 at that price, or maybe at that price, do I take the cash? Not now. It's April 12th. So no, definitely not now. I would maybe September 12th. Yeah. Because then you're entering a mid-season dip after you sell that card. But if you sell it in April or May, you're entering July, August, September, where Jordan Love's going to be one of the hottest names on the market. So definitely not now, brother. Hold it until at least July, at least the end of July. Like, hold it through the National, and then sell it either at the National or on eBay in August or September. But yeah, sell it, because then you'll be up quite a bit. But I mean, I think I answered the PC question too. Like, I think that anytime that unless it's like a pop 100 or less or something like that, I think you could probably always figure out a way to buy back in after a selling marker.
Yeah, good stuff there, Paul. Jeff, we appreciate the question. Appreciate your support. Keep them coming at nooffseason.com/ask. That's going to wrap up our questions for the day. Paul, any closing thoughts?
Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Enjoy the fact that there are amazing sports to watch right now. We've got the Masters, then we've got the NFL draft. We just had the NCAA tournament. After the NFL draft, we're going to have playoff basketball. We're going to have more exciting baseball coming, and then we're going to have NFL training camp. And we're going to have the Olympics in July. We're going to have the Summer League in July. And the reason I say all this is not to just throw out a fluff comment of enjoy watching sports. It's because, Connor, I want everybody to understand how timely everything is. So if you're listing Caleb Williams in an auction during the Masters, you're not going to maximize the return on that Caleb Williams auction because people are watching the Masters. If you're listing Caleb Williams right at that time that we tell you to list Caleb Williams, which is that week leading up to the NFL draft and through that weekend, then you're going to maximize the eyeballs on Caleb Williams because you've got the NFL, all eyes on the NFL draft. If you're listing your Giannis cards in late April, because that's when, the NBA season winds down leading into the playoffs, you're going to fail that because the attention's on the NFL draft. You want to wait until the attention is on Giannis. You want to wait till the attention's on Tatum. You want to wait until the attention is on the Joker before you list those guys' cards. And it does matter, like the day, the week, the weekend, like all those details really do matter. And also, even more so than that, I'm pretty sure everyone's picking up on the pattern of how much did you buy in at it for? Like, what are you into it? You know? Because that is a key factor, because there are multiple selling markers for guys. You know, if you're into a Giannis card, barely anything compared to what it's worth right now, liquidate in the first round of the playoffs, right? But if you're into a Giannis card or a Tatum card, like about or more than what it's worth right now, then what you're doing is you're banking on them winning the championship. You know, insert player name here, right? I'm just throwing those guys out there. So I think with an amazing amount of sporting events coming up and upon us right now, and the summer, attention is finicky. We're going to time our sell alerts appropriately. We're going to work with our one-on-one members. We're going to continue to update the website every single day to help you guys make money flipping sports cards. Thanks everybody for your support, and have a great day. Have a great weekend. Connor, should I hit him with the rock music?
Hit him with the rock music.